Hello Scrolls fans and welcome to Scrollscast number 9. Today we have some test server action showing off some of the new waypoint scrolls. We've got a Gravelock mirror match of sorts. We have ARN64 playing a mono energy Gravelock deck, and he started with a Gravelock Raider and a Gravelock Guard, and Nicon playing a growth and energy Gravelock build. So the turn we join in round 3. The turn is to ARN64. Does not have a 3-drop to play. Does have Machinated to eventually go on his Relentless Gravelock Raider. Excellent combination there. Turn passes to Nicon, who has a couple of growth cards in his opening hand. Does get up to 1 wild so that he can play almost everything in his hand now. We'll see if he wants to start with the Gravelock Guard or start with the Kinfolk Brave. I would imagine the Kinfolk Brave. Just unfortunately has to play it away from the middle to get out of range of the Gravelock Guard of his opponent. Copper Automaton for ARN64 off the top. He will need to sacrifice first, does sacrifice the copper, pulls a Gravelock Outcast and a Spark, chooses to remove his opponent's threat and maintain control of the middle. Turn goes over to Nicon. He has a number of choices he can play. If he sacrifices for 1 resource, he'll be able to play 2 threats this turn rather than 1. So he could go Gravelock Guard into Kinfolk Brave, or he could play a Gravehawk out. He could probably sacrifice the Fury. It's a nice scroll in a Gravelock deck, but I think he'd rather value having more units to play. Sacrifices up for a 2nd energy, and did decide to sacrifice the Forge. Plays a Gravelock Guard with a Gravehawk behind it instead of the Kinfolk Brave. So that's a powerful unit. He does have a good rally play next turn if he plays Kinfolk Brave into, Fury. Kinfolk Brave into Fury will bring all 3 units into attack. Unfortunately, what he does not know is his opponent has a Machinated for his Relentless Gravelock Raider, and that is going to end that plan right where it started. Wipes the board, turn over to Nicon, who now has to rebuild with just a Kinfolk Brave in hand that will be productive. Thunder Surge will be nice later, but as of right now it's probably too expensive to keep in hand. He's several turns away from being able to utilize it. Does sacrifice it for scrolls, pulls a Clandestine Orchard off the top of his deck. For those that aren't familiar with this scroll, this is a lingering scroll that when a creature comes into play on your side, another random creature you control has its countdown decreased by 1. Think of it as a continuous blessing of haste every time you play a creature for 3 rounds. Pretty darn solid. Plays the Brave out at the bottom, passes the turn over to ARN64, who does have a Gravelock Elder in his hand. He won't be able to play it yet, but that'll come down probably next turn. Outcast out as a 3/3 that can, I don't think he has any growth in his deck, so he can't tap into the regeneration feature. Sister the Fox, that combos well with the Orchard, though right now no creatures on his side to count down. Iron Whip in hand as well. Not a lot of options for that. Needs to decide what he wants to sacrifice. Starts with the Sister of the Fox to draw something to see if it's something he'd rather sacrifice, but no, he'll hold on to that burn. That's too good. Perfect counter to all 3 of the cards his opponent has. Sacrifices the Fury for resources, so he still has 3 to play. Can't play out a unit, unfortunately. Iron Whip also doesn't really do anything, so at this point he just sort of has to pass the turn, but he is deciding if he wants to move his Brave up. It's risky because if his opponent can count down the Gravelock Raider by 1 somehow, that would wipe his board. Chooses to keep his Brave where it's safe down at the bottom. Going to take a lot of tricks for Arn to get down there to kill it. Or a Spark. That's an easy trick, but does not have that yet. Sacrifices up to 5 resources to play out the Big Daddy Gravelock Elder, centerpiece of every Gravelock deck right now. And so that buffs all 3 of these units. All are very, very strong right now. Burn comes down to take out the strongest of them, the 7/3 Relentless. Moves his Sister of the Fox back to the bottom. Sacrifices the lingering Clandestine Orchard for scrolls. Has a Lockling Brood in his hand. That'll be nice. Uhu Longnose, another new scroll up. It is a unique scroll that we could see Arn play down. Uhu is not super aggressive, but does have a good countdown ability that can increase your next turn's energy by the amount of Gravelocks you control. Attacks come in, take out the middle idol, passes the turn over where we see a Gravelock Burrows, another new scroll. This is the one that pumps your Gravelocks every time a Gravelock dies. Lockling Brood, though, is the big key here. If he can get that down, that's a big threat that can be attacking every single turn. Plays the Raider with the Brood behind it. Moves his units up, now totally threatening the middle of the board. Strong threatening position. Of course, if Arn has anything that can target a unit, he can take out the Lockling Brood. Does have 2 scrolls that can target units. Burn, of course, is a wonderful choice. He would maybe want to save the burn for something else, but if he had like an Iron Whip or something that could take it out instead. But getting +1 card advantage off of and killing his opponent's extremely strong unit would be a strong choice, but does decide to take out the Brave instead, lets the Brood live for a turn. Does not have the resources to cast the Machinated Mindset. Does it do enchantments? Yeah, enchantments do kill that. So the Mindset will kill that next turn if he chooses to do so. 2 burns for Nicon, as well as a Gravelock Elder and an Iron Whip. So he can't. Nothing is in burn range as of yet. He could drop an Elder. Doesn't do anything right now, and he's got to think carefully because his units are being threatened by this attack from the middle. The guard will go down to the Brood, but that still leaves 2, so he'll need both blockers up just to keep the Brood alive. He needs to think about what he wants to sacrifice. Maybe the Iron Whip would be the choice right here. It's a nice card, but it does combo well with burn, so he could sacrifice up to 6 energy between the energy and the wild to do an Iron Whip burn combo to take out the Outcast, so then he would only have the Uhu in the middle to deal with. So that's a decent option. Starts with an Iron Whip on the Gravelock Guard, sacrifices up for resources, burn comes down, moves his units up to the middle, Brood comes in and reduces Arn's board position as much as possible. Machinated Mindset, of course, will give Uhu Relentless should he choose to do so. And between that and Spark and the Gravelock Elder boost, that could get through and deal 4, 5, 6 damage, almost enough to wipe out everything that Nicon has. I believe it's 1 damage short. Machinated Mindset would go to 4, Spark would do 2 damage to the Raider, and then 1 and 3 damage to the Brood. So it would get super, super close, couldn't quite take it out. But I suppose an easier path would just be to Spark the Brood or play Machinated Mindset on the Brood. So scratch that. He can do this relatively easily. Spark on the Brood and then Mindset on his own Uhu. But no, he decides just to increase his energy. It does increase it. Oh, it's current energy. I was thinking it's energy next turn like Thea. But we're learning these scrolls together as we go, I suppose. Well, I still imagine that we'll see something come down to take out this Brood. Uses that extra energy to play out an Elder. Machinated Mindset does take out the Brood. Passes the turn. Very strong position for Arn right now. 2 Hired Smugglers for Nicon. Nice cards, but not right now. Pitches 1. I wonder what other structures are in his deck. Obviously, the Forge is a superstar structure, even in a Gravelock deck, so just drawing those is good enough on its own. But it'd be interesting to see if he has something else as well. Has 6 energy to play with, as well as a Growth. Elder coming down doesn't really help right now. It would deal an extra 1 damage to this Elder, which is relevant, but without a machinated... without being able to pump the Gravelock Raider's attack really high, that's just a lot of beef to get through. Plays the Elder and back, building towards next turn, deals a little bit of damage to this Elder, takes it into burn range at least, but, ooh, a Brood with 2 Elders out, that's a 6/6 crashing in every turn. That's tough to deal with. Saves it for now, though. Violent Dispersal on the Elder. Keeps control of the game, keeps control of the board. These 2 units aren't going to do much on their own. Gravelock Guard, it's nice earlier in the game. Right now it's not super relevant. Maybe it's better than Hired Smuggler. I don't know if he's willing to have just the extra stats rather than the card draw ability of the Smuggler. Definitely needs to get something building, though, because his idols he's already lost 1 idol. This one's going to die next turn almost certainly. And then, well, he's just 1 combat trick away from losing this idol as well. So definitely in a risky position to just lose next turn. He needs to think about idol defense, but committing to defend those idols will lose him some units. Fury is an out to get back into the game if he can build up some sort of presence next turn. Maybe that starts with the Elder. Maybe that instead he plays Outcast and Guard and plans to Fury next turn. But I don't know if he'll have any units remaining. Plays the Forge down to defend that top idol, so that makes it less likely that he will just sort of die. And then the Outcast behind. He can take advantage of the Outcast healing ability because he has access to growth in his deck. Arn's turn now has a Spark and a Lockling Brood and a Guard. I imagine he'll pitch the Guard. The Spark is perfect answer to the Raider. Of course, Thunder Surge is a great answer as well. He can gain 4 resources off his Uhu, and that would put him up to 10, so he could go Thunder Surge Brood, or he could go Brood, Brood, Spark. Lots of really ugly plays he could make that would just put Nicon in a horrible, horrible position. Thunder Surge comes down, takes out everything but this Outcast, gains himself those resources, has 4 to play with now, sparks the Forge, moves his units up, lets the Outcast survive so it can heal, but takes out the Forge and continuing to threaten these up top idols. Oculus Cannon comes down. That answers the question about what structures are in Nikon's deck. But probably too little too late. Still has, sacrifices the Fury, has an Uhu of his own, but hasn't amassed the critical mass of Gravelocks that Arn has, so it's nowhere near as effective, just a sort of a weak 4-cost creature. But he could at least drop it with the Guard, and then maybe Elder next turn. He could take a risk and not defend these idols this turn, but does go ahead and play the Oculus Cannon up, defends it with the Outcast that I'm sure he'll heal with that extra growth that can't do anything else. Gravelock Guard played as well. Does not heal. He forgets to heal. That is a weak Outcast. We'll see if Arn can take advantage of it. Has an Ironclad Reaver. Probably not as strong as these Broods at this moment. We'll just be deciding later if he wants the Elder to take out this top idol or if he wants to move it down to kill a unit. Typically you want to kill units, but in situations where you're close to ending the game, sometimes it's worth putting the extra pressure on your opponent by taking out an idol. Sudden Eruption and Violent Dispersal to choose from, as well as, of course, the Brood and the Reaver. Moves his Elder to the middle, Ironclad Reaver in front, Uhu down to the middle, does take out the idol. So the Outcast gets a chance to attack, wasn't punished for forgetting to heal it on his last turn. 2 Uhus in hand, not great because it's a unique. Probably needs to sacrifice one of those. Pulls an Outcast and a Raider. So he's got Gravelocks in hand. He's got what it takes to build up an army. He just doesn't have time. The Oculus Cannon makes it more difficult for Arn to get in here and take out this idol, but Nicon needs to be super careful because this is 8 damage right now that could go up to, if Arn pulls another Elder, goes up to 10, and that's perfect amount to take out this idol. Or if he has anything that pumps attack, that would do it too. There the heal comes on the Outcast. Forgot it last turn, but it's okay. He survived. Has 6 resources to play with. Could go Elder Raider. Could go Uhu Smuggler. Outcast Raider or Outcast Smuggler. I'd like to see the Elder come down now. He needs to get some beef out there. We'll deal a little bit of damage to Arn's other Elder. Also needs to defend this idol, though. There's just too much of a risk to let the game end if Arn has any tricks at all. Thinking carefully about his positioning, only has a few seconds left to decide. Plays an Elder out and a Raider. Raider is played to defend the 4th idol, so it's less likely that he'll be killed. Unfortunately, with his positioning here, the Elder will die before the Guard. He's choosing to he's valuing the Guard's attack more than the Elder's life and buffing ability. But he does have removal in hand too, so he can think about how he wants to play this. If he Violent Dispersals this Elder, then the Outcast will die, and he could kill the Guard. He could even kill the Cannon. He could wipe out all 4 of these units with that Violent Dispersal. That might be too much value to pass up. He has these Gravelock Burrows as well. They're nice, but probably not as good as, well, he pulls up some energy, so he's going for a bigger play, chooses to Sudden Eruption, deals damage to everything. I don't think that play was as good as the Violent Dispersal play, but it's still definitely a good play. Leaves his opponent with a few units left. Clandestine Orchard, nice scroll. I actually like that addition in Gravelock decks. I think that's a clever use of the growth that you're already into growth. Clever use of the resources that you're already building up for Gravehawks and things like that. So I think that's a good addition. Haven't seen it come into effect this game, though. He could drop it and then the Lockling Brood and get a countdown. It would be random what it hits, so it would be nice if it hits that Elder. Still needs to think about how to defend these idols. That's a lot of beef down here from Arn. Some removal would be good. I think he may have already used all 3 burns because he sacrificed 1 earlier in the game burns would be perfect, or sparks, or just some sort of removal. Right now he's just got a pile of creatures that are nice, but 2 turns away from really doing anything. I guess the Brood would do something next turn, but really easy for his opponent to remove. Plays the Orchard, so for the next 3 turns he'll have more aggressive units. How is he going to follow that up? He could play 2 units out and get 2 countdowns. Chooses to play the Broodling, gets 1 countdown, hits the Elder. Does it hit only creatures? Yes, only creatures, so that was the only choice for it to be. Moves the guard up. That'll take out 1 Elder, which is nice. Moves his Brood up to the already dead idol, so he's letting his opponent decide if he wants to deal damage to the idol or to the Brood. Probably not a huge deal. May have even been the right choice to have more control over the middle. Unfortunately, ARN has plenty of spells that can just take out this Brood. He can go burn on it to take it out. I would have burned the Elder and then Machinated Mindset the Brood, but to each their own. That's something that works as well. Perhaps ARN is just not super concerned about this Elder. Plays out his own lingering spell, this one specific to Gravelocks. Whenever one of his Gravelocks dies, all of his other Gravelocks get +2 attack for a turn, which is very nice. Gravehawk up for Nicon. Another Oculus Cannon if he wants to play it out. I actually really like this Orchard. I think it's quite clever in this deck. Note that if he plays any of his creatures, then both of his units are going to be ready to attack and take out this Raider. That's nice. So he's really gained pretty strong control over this top. Of course, the problem is he's going to lose down here, but maybe he can establish some sort of presence here on this lane and stall the game long enough to build this strong army up and move down to confront the powerhouse that ARN has. Of course, he could just draw a Spark or something to take out this Elder that really is the centerpiece of this army. That's what's really holding it together. The Ironclad Reaver can stand alone, but the rest of his units are relying on that Elder. Outcast comes down to defend the cannon, triggers the Elder to count down to 1. I imagine he'll move up to take out this Raider. Guard will probably come down to defend the cannon. Let's see if he makes those movements. Oh, he hadn't even sacrificed yet. Always make sure you sacrifice first so that you know what your full options are. I don't think it mattered this turn, but maybe he would have preferred to play the Forge instead of the Outcast. Takes out the Raider, turn passes to ARN. 2 5-power units come down. Something I didn't think about and something Nicon didn't think about. What happened there was the Gravelock Burrows triggered when that unit died and gave all of ARN's Gravelocks +2 attack until the end of his next turn. So by killing that Raider, something I didn't even see and Nicon didn't see, just boosted him up to 5 damage, which is perfect to take out that idol. Wow. Didn't think about that at all. Well done to both players with the Gravelock showdown. This has been Smogan with Scrollscast number 9 from the test server. These scrolls aren't live yet, but will be soon. If you like what you saw here, give us a subscribe or a like or a comment on the Badger Guild YouTube channel. We always appreciate the viewer feedback. Thank you all for tuning in. Check out the channel for more.